Prison station Omega-9 hung in the void like a metal spider, its 8 wings extending from a central hub. Each wing glowed with the eerie blue light of containment fields, housing the most dangerous criminals in 7 galaxies. Security wasn't just tight, it was mathematically impossible to breach. At least, that's what Warden Grek told anyone who would listen. Observe, Warden Grek gestured with 2 of his 4 spindly arms to the rotating hologram of the station. His exoskeleton gleamed under the artificial lighting, meticulously polished as always. 17 layers of quantum-locked barriers. Ocean sensors that can detect a particle of dust moving against regulations. Guards from the Krizat homeworld whose vision extends into 12 spectrums. And my personal favorite, the vacuum corridors separating each cell block. Undersecretary Plex nodded his bulbous head, mandibles clicking in appreciation. Impressive security measures, Warden. The Galactic Council is pleased with your perfect record. 427 of the most dangerous beings ever to disrupt galactic peace, Grek preened, his head crest flaring with pride. And not one escape in the 93 cycles I've been Warden. Which brings me to our newest addition, Plex said, sliding a data crystal across the desk. The Council has a special case for you. Grek absorbed the data with a touch of his sensory appendage. A human. From that newly discovered backwater? What could possibly warrant? Don't be deceived by appearances, Plex interrupted. This particular specimen, designated Jack Reynolds, has already escaped from 3 planetary maximum security facilities. Grek's secondary eyelids flicked dismissively. The primitive worlds with primitive security. Omega-9 is different. The arrival bay doors parted with a pneumatic hiss as the prisoner transport docked. Grek and Chief Guard Vex watched through reinforced glass as the airlock cycled. Initiate Containment Protocol 7 Delta, Grek ordered. Vex, a hulking mass of muscle with blue-gray skin and 4 eyes positioned around his skull, grunted. For this? Seems excessive. The Council has classified this human as maximum risk. Protocol will be followed. The inner doors slid open, revealing a remarkably unimpressive sight. The human Jack Reynolds stood just under 2 meters tall, with only 2 arms, 2 legs, and disturbingly exposed skin. His transport restraints looked almost comically large on his slender frame. This is the escape artist? Vex rumbled, disbelief evident in his bass voice. Jack looked up, meeting Grek's gaze through the glass. His lips curved into what human behavioral files identified as a smile. Welcome to Omega-9, Prisoner Reynolds, Grek announced through the speaker system. You are now in the most secure facility ever constructed. The word escape doesn't exist here. Jack's smile widened. Nice to meet you too. I've heard great things about your hospitality. Grek's antennae twitched in irritation. Process him, Chief Vex. Full decontamination, cavity searches, psychological profile, the works. Enter. As the guards led Jack away, Grek couldn't help but feel a twinge of unease. Something about the way the human carried himself, relaxed, observant, almost amused, suggested this wasn't just another inmate. But Grek pushed the thought aside. After all, Omega-9 was inescapable, even for a human. Processing a new prisoner usually took 3 standard hours. With Jack Reynolds, it took 7. He has how many teeth? Grek demanded, reviewing the medical scan. The prison's chief medical officer, Dr. Triv, a gelatinous being contained in a hovering medical suit, bobbed nervously. 32, Warden. And they're made of bone-like material that grows directly from the jaw. Disgusting, Grek muttered. What else? His skeletal structure contains over 200 separate pieces. His brain appears capable of both logical and completely irrational thought simultaneously. His digestive system. Skip to security concerns, Doctor. Well, that's just it. Dr. Triv's voice burbled through his translator. Humans are adaptable. Their bodies can heal from injuries that would kill most species. They can survive in a remarkable range of temperatures and atmospheres, and their musculature, while not particularly impressive, has surprising endurance. Grek waved a dismissive appendage. Nothing our security systems can't handle. Could assign him to level 6, cell block D, with Quarks. Chief Vex questioned. The Zentari thief? Yes, Greg nodded his bulbous head. Quarks has no history of violence. The human should be safe enough. I was more concerned about Quarks, sir. Greg let out a high-pitched sound that passed for laughter among his species. The human weighs less than a juvenile Flopkian. I think the seven-armed master thief can handle himself. Jack Reynolds sat perfectly still on his assigned sleep platform as the cell door dissolved and reformed behind his new cellmate. Quarks was an impressive sight, 2 meters of dark purple skin stretched over a wiry frame, with 7 limbs that seemed to move independently of each other. 5 of them were currently handcuffed together. So, Quark said, his translator rendering his clicks and whistles into standard galactic. They finally sent me dinner. Jack smiled. If you're hungry, I'd be happy to share whatever they bring. Though I should warn you, human food might not agree with your digestive system. 4 of Quarks's yellow eyes blinked in sequence. A comedian. Wonderful. Just what this cell needed. Jack Reynolds, he said, extending his hand, then realizing the gesture might not translate across species. And you're the famous Quarks, right? The Zentari who stole the crown jewels of Betelgeuse 9. Quarks's posture shifted from hostile to preening in an instant. You've heard of me? Hard not to. That heist was legendary. 7 layers of security, 27 guards, and a vault door 2 meters thick. Yet you were in and out in under 3 minutes with the entire collection. 2 minutes and 47 seconds, actually Quarks corrected, all pretense of aggression gone. How does a human from a pre-FTL civilization know about that? Jack shrugged. I've been around. Picked things up. Quark settled onto his own sleeping platform, his handcuffs dissolving as he crossed the cell's interior boundary. And what are you in for, human? At this and that. Mostly misunderstandings. 3 planetary prison escapes is quite a misunderstanding. Jack's eyebrows raised slightly. You've been reading my file. The guards talk. They think we can't understand them, but my translator picks up their subvocalizations. Quarks leaned forward. They're afraid of you. Me? Jack laughed. I'm just a simple human trying to see the galaxy. Quarks's multiple limbs gestured in what might have been his species equivalent of a shrug. I've been in this cell for 7 cycles. And, a bit of excitement would be welcome. Jack lay back on his platform, hands behind his head. Then I hope I don't disappoint you. Chief Guard Vex watched the cell's surveillance feed with narrowed eyes. Something about him bothers me, he rumbled to his assistant. The human? Asked Junior Guard Flip, a thin, amphibious creature with bulging eyes. He's been perfectly compliant. Hasn't even complained about the food. That's what bothers me, Vex growled. No one is compliant their first day in Omega 9. No one. Maybe humans are just naturally adaptive, Flip suggested. Or maybe he's planning something. Vex increased the resolution on the monitor, zooming in on Jack's face. The human appeared to be sleeping, but his eyes moved beneath closed lids. Double the sensor sweeps on level 6 and assign an extra guard to the monitoring station. The warden won't approve the extra resources, Flip protested. I don't need his approval for security adjustments, Vex said, his 4 eyes never leaving the screen. There's something not right about that human, and I'm going to find out what it is. 3 weeks into Jack Reynolds' incarceration, the first incident occurred. A minor power fluctuation in cell block D, lasting only 7 seconds, systems automatically compensated, security protocols engaged, and everything returned to normal. The technical staff classified it as a random surge in the quantum containment field. 2 days later, the waste reclamation system on level 6 backed up, flooding 3 cells with foul-smelling but ultimately harmless sludge. Maintenance droids addressed the issue, and after a thorough investigation, the head engineer blamed a programming glitch. By the end of the month, Warden Grek was developing a nervous twitch in his left antenna. Another malfunction. he demanded, bursting into the control room. That's the 7th this week. Lieutenant Zib, the head of technical operations, nervously adjusted his breathing apparatus. Just the food replicators this time, sir. Nothing serious. Nothing serious? Greg's voice rose to a pitch that made several officers wince. Half the prisoners in Block C received double rations, and the other half got nothing. We've isolated the issue to a corrupted command sequence, Zib explained. The system should be fully functional within the hour. And what caused the corruption? Greg demanded. Zib's 6 fingers tapped anxiously on his console. Unknown, sir. Possibly random data degradation. Nothing is random on my station, Lieutenant. Nothing. In the recreational area, a stark, circular chamber with reinforced walls and constant surveillance jack had become surprisingly popular among the inmates. He sat now at a table with an eclectic group: Quarks the thief, Dren, a massive silicon-based entity convicted of planetary terraforming without a license, and Frill, a delicate-looking being composed entirely of what appeared to be glowing threads. So then, Jack continued his story, I told the customs agent that the self-replicating nanites were actually just exotic spices. He actually tasted them. Dren's rocky form vibrated in what passed for laughter. And that's how you smuggled terraforming technology to the outer colonies. Allegedly, Jack corrected with a wink. I was never convicted of that particular crime. You continue to surprise me, human, Quark said, 3 of his hands shuffling a deck of contraband cards. And for a species that hasn't even mastered local star travel, you've accumulated quite the resume. We're quick learners, Jack replied, accepting his cards. Speaking of learning, anyone know what's behind all these malfunctions lately? Frill's glowing threads pulsed with amusement. The warden is losing his mind over it. Yesterday I overheard him accusing the chief engineer of sabotage. Sabotage? Jack raised an eyebrow. That's a serious accusation. The timing is suspicious, Dren rumbled. Nothing like this happened before you arrived, human. Jack placed a card on the table. Pure coincidence. I've been a model prisoner. Model observer is more like it, Quarks noted. You watch everything. The guard rotations and the maintenance schedules. The camera blind spots. Jack's expression remained neutral, just curious about my new home. And Frill's threads changed to a knowing blue. Curious enough to be mapping the ventilation system? Jack's smile never faltered. Is it that obvious? Only to those looking, Quarks replied, and I'm always looking. In his office, Warden Grek reviewed the security logs with Chief Vex. The incidents are increasing in frequency, Grek noted, his normally immaculate uniform rumpled from an extended shift and complexity. I've been saying something's not right, Vex growled, especially concerning the human. You found evidence linking him to the malfunctions. Not directly, Vex admitted. But he's been making friends. Lots of friends. Different species, different blocks, different security levels. Socializing isn't a crime, Chief. It is when your new friends happen to include the station's best tech manipulator, a former tunnel excavator, and an energy being capable of interfering with our systems. Grek's antennae stood straight up. You believe he's assembling a team? I believe, Vex said carefully, that no one escapes from 3 planetary prisons by accident. The human is methodical, patient. He's testing our responses, cataloging our weaknesses. Then we change the variables, Grek decided, and move him to solitary confinement. Restrict his movements, break whatever pattern he's establishing. Vex's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. With respect, Warden, that might be exactly what he wants, to be placed somewhere specific. Then what do you suggest? We watch. We wait. And we prepare for whatever he's planning. Impossible. Grek dismissed the idea with a wave. Nothing can penetrate our security systems. The human will remain in Omega-9 until his sentence is complete. That's final. As Vex left the office, he couldn't shake the feeling that Jack Reynolds had already found a way through the impenetrable. Jack sat cross-legged on his sleeping platform, eyes closed, breathing steady. To the casual observer, he appeared to be practicing some human meditation technique. To the more discerning eyes, such as Quark's multiple yellow ones, he was communicating. "You're tapping your fingers," Quark's noted quietly. "Code?" "Code." Jack opened one eye. "Just keeping rhythm. Helps me think." "And 3 short, 3 long, 3 short again. That's not rhythm? That's a signal." With a resigned smile, Jack opened both eyes. "Fine. You caught me. I'm signaling frill in Block B. The walls here might block most forms of communication, but they're permeable to certain energy frequencies. And frill, being essentially composed of energy, can receive these signals." Quarks nodded appreciatively. "Clever. What's the message?" "Tonight," Jack said simply. "It's time." Quarks' 7 arms wrapped around his torso in what might have been anxiety or excitement. "You're serious? After just 6 weeks? The security patterns are established. The personnel rotations are mapped. And most importantly," Jack tapped his temple, "I've memorized the station's structural weaknesses." "There are no structural weaknesses in Omega-9, Quark scoffed. "The station was designed by the finest minds in the consortium." "Exactly. Minds that think linearly in predictable patterns." Jack leaned forward. "Did you know there's a maintenance shaft between Blocks C and D that connects directly to the central hub? It's not on any official schematic, but I spotted the access panel when they transferred that Arcturian smuggler last week. Even if such a shaft exists, it would be monitored." "It was. Until the surveillance system suffered an unexpected glitch 3 days ago." Jack's grin widened. "A glitch that prevented the backup systems from recording the fact that I reprogrammed the sensors to show a continuous loop." Quark's eyes widened. How did you?" "Remember when I volunteered to clean the mess hall after the food replicator malfunction? Turns out the central monitoring station is just 1 level above, and they leave the secondary access panel unlocked during maintenance cycles." Jack shrugged. "Human hands are surprisingly dexterous." "You magnificent bastard," Quarks whispered with something like reverence. "You've been planning this since day 1. Before that, actually. I got myself arrested specifically to end up here." "But why?" Jack's expression grew serious. "Because according to galactic records, Omega-9 also houses a prisoner in maximum isolation, one who never receives visitors, one whose very existence is classified." "Who?" My sister." In the central security hub, alarms suddenly blared to life. Multiple system failures. Lieutenant Zib shouted, his tentacles flying over the controls. Power fluctuations in all blocks. The warden Grek burst into the hub, his exoskeleton clicking with agitation. "Status report." "Sir, we're experiencing cascading failures across all systems. Life support is stable, but security protocols are disengaging in seemingly random patterns." "Nothing is random," Grek screeched. "Where's the human?" Chief Vex consulted his portable terminal. "Cell block D, sir. Still in his cell according to sensors." "Confirm visually," Grek ordered. A guard activated the direct video feed to Jack's cell. There he was, sitting calmly on his platform, eyes closed in apparent meditation. "See?" Zib said. "He's right where he should be." "Then why?" Grek asked slowly, pointing to another monitor. "Is he also in the mess hall?" The security feed clearly showed Jack Reynolds sitting at a table, playing cards with 3 other inmates. "That's impossible," Vex growled. "Check all feeds." Within moments, the control room was in chaos. Jack Reynolds appeared on no fewer than 5 different security feeds, in 5 different locations, all at the same time. "It's a loop." Vex realized with dawning horror. "He's hacked our surveillance system." "A full lockdown," Greg commanded. "All personnel to emergency stations to find the human." But it was already too late. As the alarm klaxons wailed across the station, the first explosion rocked the central hub. The explosion wasn't large, just enough to breach the door to the central ventilation system. Through the newly created opening poured a bizarre assault team. Dren, the silicon entity leading the charge, his crystalline form absorbing energy blasts from the security drones. Behind him, Frill, her luminous threads interfacing with control panels and disabling security fields, and at the rear, Quark's 7 limbs moving in perfect coordination as he bypassed locks and disabled alarms. Jack was nowhere to be seen. To find him, Warden Grek shrieked, spittle flying from his mandibles. They'd deploy all security forces. Release the Hunter drones. Chief Vex coordinated the response, his 4 eyes constantly scanning multiple tactical displays. He's divided our forces with diversionary attacks on 3 different blocks. The maintenance crews report unauthorized access to the primary cooling systems, and something's interfering with our communications array. How? Grek demanded. How is one primitive human causing this much chaos? He's not alone, Vex replied grimly. Half the prison population seems to be helping him. A junior officer burst into the command center. Warden. The quantum vault has been breached. Impossible. The vault requires 3 different genetic signatures from 3 separate command staff too. These were used to bypass the security, the officer interrupted, holding up what appeared to be small, translucent patches. They contained synthesized genetic samples, from you, Chief Vex and Lieutenant Zib. Grek's antennae went completely rigid. How could he possibly? The medical exam? Vex realized. When he first arrived, the extended processing time, he must have collected samples then. What's in the quantum vault? The junior officer asked nervously. Nothing, Grek replied, his voice hollow, just 1 prisoner. Maximum isolation protocol. A prisoner? Who? The station-wide communication system suddenly crackled to life, and Jack Reynolds' voice filled every corridor of Omega-9. Attention all inmates and staff. This is your friendly neighborhood jailbreaker speaking. As you've probably noticed, things are getting a bit chaotic. For those interested in a change of scenery, shuttles will be departing from Docking Bay 3 in approximately 15 minutes. Seating is first come, first served. To the staff, no hard feelings. You were just doing your jobs. Well, except for Warden Grek. You're kind of a jerk. Grek's exoskeleton literally rattled with rage. Cut him off. Seal the docking bays. System's not responding, sir, reported a frantic technician. We're locked out of main controls. Then get to the docking bay physically. Mobilize every available guard. But as security forces converged on Docking Bay 3, the station's artificial gravity suddenly disengaged in all corridors leading to the target. Guards tumbled helplessly through the air, their weapons firing wildly into walls and ceilings. In the midst of the zero-G chaos, Jack Reynolds floated calmly through the corridor, hand in hand with a slender human female. Told you I'd get you out, Emma, he said to his sister. Never doubted you for a second, she replied, her voice hoarse from disuse. Though I admit, taking over an entire prison station seems a bit excessive, even for you. Go big or go home. That's what Dad always said. Jack propelled them around a corner with a practiced push against the wall. Speaking of which, the shuttle's this way. They reached Docking Bay 3 just as Quarks finished overriding the launch protocols. A stream of inmates was already boarding the transport vessels, monitored by Dren and Frill. Your timing is impeccable, Quarks noted, all 7 arms working various controls. The station's automated defense systems will reboot in approximately 3 minutes. Plenty of time, Jack grinned, helping his sister aboard the lead shuttle. Everyone accounted for. All 27 of your recruits present and ready for departure, Frill reported, her glowing threads pulsing with excitement. Though I still don't understand why you're bringing her. She gestured toward a small, secured container. An insurance policy, Jack explained. And a little something to remember us by. As the shuttles prepared for launch, the docking bay doors suddenly slammed shut. Annual override, shouted an inmate at the window. They're cutting us off. Jack's smile never faltered. Right on schedule. Quarks, if you please. The master thief activated a small device attached to his wrist. Throughout the station, Every door, cell doors, security barriers, airlock controls simultaneously received the same open command. In the resulting chaos of alarms and emergency protocols, the docking bay doors reopened as the system attempted to reconcile contradictory commands. The shuttles launched into space, engines flaring as they accelerated away from Omega-9. On the lead vessel's viewscreen, they watched as the prison station grew smaller, its security systems finally returning to normal operation, far too late to prevent the greatest prison break in galactic history. Jack settled into the pilot's seat, setting coordinates for the outer rim. Not bad for a primitive human, huh? The Galactic Security Council's emergency session lasted 3 standard days. Representatives from 17 sentient species argued, accused, and eventually reached a unanimous conclusion. Humans were now classified as a Class 1 security risk. Former Warden Grek, demoted to junior custodial supervisor at a minor asteroid penal colony, watched the news report with simmering rage. All facilities housing human prisoners must now implement additional security measures, the council spokesperson announced, including but not limited to constant genetic verification, neural disruptors calibrated specifically to human brainwave patterns, and isolation from all other species. Grek shut off the broadcast with a violent gesture. Too little, too late. His career was ruined, his reputation destroyed. All because of one unremarkable-looking human. The final insult had been discovering what Jack Reynolds had taken from the quantum vault, not just his sister, but also the small container that had been deposited there 80 cycles earlier by the Galactic Survey team that first discovered Earth. A container whose contents were deemed too dangerous to be allowed anywhere near human civilization. Early prototype plans for faster-than-light travel. 6 months later, in a crowded spaceport bar on the edge of charted space, a group of smugglers huddled around a small table. "You heard about Kreslak prison?" one whispered. "Another human escape. 3rd one this month. They're using the Reynolds protocol now." Another nodded sagely. "Working in teams. Learning our systems faster than we can upgrade them." "I heard the original Reynolds wasn't even a criminal," a third chimed in. "Just some normal human who wanted to rescue his sister. Now he's running the biggest smuggling operation in the Outer Rim." "My cousin works security on Omega-9, the first smuggler said. "Says Reynolds left something behind in Warden Grek's personal quarters, some kind of human cultural artifact." "What was it?" Was it a crude image?" Grek had it analyzed by xenohistorians. "Apparently it's an ancient Earth symbol that translates roughly to humans were here." The group fell silent, contemplating the implications. At a nearby table, a hooded figure listened to the conversation with amusement. Jack Reynolds sipped his drink, mentally composing his next message to Emma and the growing network of human explorers now spreading throughout the galaxy. The Galactic Council had made a fundamental error in their assessment of humanity. They had classified humans as a security risk because of their ingenuity, adaptability, and unpredictability. What they failed to understand was that these weren't bugs in human programming, they were features, essential survival traits developed over millennia on a planet where nothing came easy. And now humanity had the stars. Jack raised his glass in a silent toast to Warden Grek, wherever the pompous administrator might be. After all, without Omega-9's perfect security system to overcome, Jack might never have discovered just how capable humans really were. The legend of the prison no one could escape until they locked up a human was spreading across the galaxy. And with it, a simple message to the cosmos at large: underestimate us at your peril.